There's a path which runs from the red post box by the village green, along the churchyard wall, over a stile, and out into the countryside. And if you follow it past the fallen oak tree and along the chattering river, you'll come to a small tumble-down shed with ivy and brambles growing out through the roof and the cracked windows. Next to the shed is a hedge, and if you look closely, very closely, then you'll see that the grass has been trodden down and a hole no bigger than a tennis ball has been made in the undergrowth. If you were able to shrink down and crawl through the brambles, you'd find an opening in the grass bank. And if you were able to slither down through the hole, you would find a tunnel which opens out into a warm underground home. That home is where a young inquisitive fox lives, a young inquisitive fox called Fly. It was late afternoon on a frosty day at the end of autumn. Fly had been sleeping curled up as usual in the curve of his mummy's tummy, where it was cosy and safe. Their burrow was dark, so dark that Fly couldn't see anything when he opened his eyes, but he knew that it was safe. He could feel his mum's fur cuddling into his back and feel her breathing on the top of his head. He liked that. He sniffed the air but could not smell his dad in the burrow, but he knew that he would be home soon with some food for tea. Fly stretched his legs out and felt the straw on the floor tickle his paws. He stood up and sniffed his mother's snout, which made her wake up. She licked Fly's inquisitive nose and said, "You okay, little one?" "I'm hungry," said Fly. "Dad'll be home soon," said Mum, as she shook the sleep from her foggy head. Fly walked to the entrance of the tunnel and sniffed. It felt cold outside. "Can I go out and wait for Dad?" "I'll come with you," said Mum, and together they made their way up into the daylight. "Me first, remember," said Mum, as she squeezed past Fly's impatient, wriggly body. She stopped just short of the late afternoon sunshine and sniffed the air. "Why do you do that every time?" Fly asked. "To keep us safe," she said, "and check that all is well." She sniffed the air again and said, "Wait here." Fly squatted down onto his tummy and watched his mother's long bushy tail trot out into the open field. "All safe," she said. "You can come out now." Fly needed no second invitation and bounded out into the sunlight. He ran rings round his mum, who sat on the frosty grass and cleaned her paws and snout carefully. Fly spotted a daddy longlegs buzzing around a patch of thistles and did his best to catch it in his mouth. "You've got to be quicker than that to catch one of those, buddy," said a familiar voice from the corner of the field. "Dad," said the young fox as he scampered over the damp grass to say hello to his father. "What's for tea?" Back in the burrow, the family ate their food, and Fly's father told his young son stories about the world on the other side of the river. Fly loved his dad's stories. Later that night, when the stars played in the sky and the moon made the frosty branches sparkle, Fly and his man sat next to the entrance to their burrow and listened to the stillness. "Mum," said the young cub, "do you ever get scared?" "Sometimes," she said. "Do you?" "Lots of times," said Fly, "like when Dad goes over the river for food and I can't see where he is." "Well," said Fly's mum, nuzzling her cub close to her, "he always comes home, doesn't he?" "Yeah, but I worry that maybe he won't," said Fly. His mum looked at him thoughtfully and said, "Come with me," and trotted back through the hedge and into the burrow. Fly and his mother sat in the darkness of their home and listened. "Now, young Fly, you hear me very carefully, because I need you to know these things, not just in your head, but right inside your heart. This is your home. Me and Dad are here to keep you safe. And all the things that are outside can't harm us in here. We're safe. Say it back to me, Fly. We're safe," said the cub. "Come on, follow me," said Mum, and the pup followed his mother once again out into the night time. "Now, when you are outside, what do we always tell you to do before we leave the burrow? To listen carefully and sniff the air for danger. And what does your father tell you always to do when you go out into the fields? Stay near the hedges." "Because?" said Mum. "Because the hedges keep you safe." Fly thought for a moment and said, "But what about beyond the river and over the hills? What about then?" "Come on," said Mum. "I've got something to show you." And with that, the cub and his mother trotted along the path, keeping close to the hedges along the river, to where it was shallow enough to cross, and then through the wood and up the hill to where the moon seemed to shine even brighter than the sky. And there the cub and his mother sat and looked out to where the world stretched out to the horizon. Fly sat open-mouthed at just how vast it was. "Is this the whole world?" he said. His mother smiled. "Well, they say that there's even more than this, but I've not seen it." Fly thought for a while and said, "And you and Dad keep me safe from all of this?" "Well, we do everything we can," she said, "but our home keeps us safe, and Dad and I keep you safe in our little bit of the world, but we have to trust someone else for the rest." "Who's that?" said Fly. "They call him the Maker. He keeps his eye on the world and keeps us safe. Safe from the things that make us sad or cause us harm. Safe from the things we don't understand, because the Maker knows best." Fly looked up into the night sky. "Because the Maker knows best." Fly and his mother sat in the quietness for a while, and then he said, "Do bad things still happen though, Mum?" "Yes, sometimes they do," she said. "Like when the big dogs came," said the pup. "Yes, like when the big dogs came," whispered his mum. The pair sat quietly once again, and Fly said, "I really miss Bracken." His mum cuddled her pup close to her and said, "I know, I miss her too." By the time the young cub and his mum had got home, Dad was back with supper and more stories. But by the time they were settling down to sleep, it was almost daybreak. Fly was thinking about what his mum had shown him and what she had told him, and for tonight, at least, he felt safe. Safe in his cosy burrow, safe hidden in the prickly hedge, and safe in this big wide world. And as Fly drifted off to sleep, he whispered to himself, "Because the Maker